you find common ground and things that people want to change, that's what we act on. So we've been educating them as to their rights and teaching them the power of coming together.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Here to talk to us some more about exactly that is Mary Hill and Italo Medalias from North Carolina. Mary Hill is the Vice President of Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment. Italo is the Secretary of Cause. Mary, Italo, welcome to the Valley Labor Report. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Jacob, thank you for having us, my friend.
Yes.
Really
Very
excited
glad
to talk to y'all. Like I said, this is an incredibly important development for Amazon workers, of course, in North Carolina, but across North America, right? And so I want to
Yes.
take a step back. I want to take a step back from kind of the story that I was just talking about, and I want to give y'all an opportunity to talk some more about your history and how and why you got involved in this now years-long fight to organize Amazon, and we can start with you, Mary.
Hi. Thank you so much for presenting us with this opportunity. Wow. I guess I would just start at the beginning of how Cause All came to be. It was in the middle of the pandemic when they kept trying to send Reverend Ryan, who is our president, into a hotspot in the facility. And he had seniors like his grandmother, grandparents that were at a higher risk when you have underlying health conditions. And they kept trying to send him in these hotspots and telling us that we didn't have a choice. We're like, what? What do you mean I don't have a choice? Are you kidding me? So he went home, he prayed about it, and he got this inspiration or this vision. He came back the next day and presented his vision to me and said he got the message organized. He said, what does that mean, organize? We need to organize our workers because we're sure that we weren't the only two that were being forced to go into these other areas, other hotspots. And it was his baby. He came up with the idea of organize, and I came up with cause. Because it's been my experience, if I have an acronym for something, I can remember. So I came up with Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment. And we started with a petition that was a little over 3 years ago to find out what the majority of our coworkers could agree on. And those top three were safety hazards, better pay, and longer breaks. So that's how Cause came about. And here we are 3 years later with an election.
Italo, can you talk to us about some of the problems that that you and other Amazon workers are facing that you would like to see addressed, by a union campaign and a union contract? What are some of the biggest problems that you and your coworkers have at Amazon facilities?
Sure, and Mom Mary talked about a few of them, but I think the biggest thing, really, Jacob, is this idea of dignity. I think a lot of us that work at Amazon, and it doesn't have to be just in the South, it can be anywhere. They treat us like robots. We're not human to them. Just as an example, when I first started, I used to work in pack. Literally just sitting in an assembly line and packing the packages that will go out to be delivered. I never knew my manager's name, who my actual manager was, for about a year. And everybody that would come over and sort of be a manager, because we have many managers over us. Sometimes we don't even know who the actual one is. They never even knew my name. So one of the things that we have when we walk around Amazon warehouses, we have a blue badge with like a user ID on it, and it says it's just like a bunch of little letters that just for them to be able to identify you within the computer, and that's what they would call me. And I realized very early on that that's a very normal thing, that they don't even treat you like a human being. Another thing is a lot of our folks get a lot of injuries. We have some of the most injuries in any Amazon facilities, not just in the South, but in the nation. Even before peak season, right? There was one. They used to put the ratings of injuries up on a little board, and at one point there were like 2,000 injuries that happened in the time span of a week. And if you know the size of our warehouse, that's like half the warehouse that was injured within the time span of a week. So things like injuries and dignity of being treated like a human and not like, some chattel in a plantation, is on top of the pay, the breaks, the paid time off, the flexibility. Even looking at our brothers and sisters across the street at UPS, they have a union and they make less money than what we make Amazon. But they get pension, they get a higher starting wage, and they get just much better benefits than we do. So we can see the effects of unionization right across the street, and we want that too. We know what unionization does, and we want to be a part of that.
Exactly. Yeah, we're getting some feedback from y'all. I don't know if you could if the two of you could mute when you're not speaking, or maybe get some earbuds. I'm not exactly sure where the feedback is coming from, but could you tell us some more about, like, so those are some of the problems. Like talk to us about what does the work of an Amazon employee look like? You clock in, you're going to clock in maybe even tomorrow. I don't know what y'all's schedule is, but y'all are both workers at the North Carolina Amazon facility, RDU1. The next time that you clock in, what is the work that you and your coworkers are going to be doing? And we can stay with you, Italo.
Yeah, and I'm just going to turn my volume down, so hopefully you don't get much feedback.
That sounds a lot better.
Is that better, Jacob?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm actually going to be clocking in today at 3:30. So I'm going to be getting right in there. What it's like to work in an Amazon facility? I guess it's a little bit different. One of the first things that I always hear, and that I felt the first time that I walked into an Amazon, and I think anybody that you talk to will tell you the same thing. It feels like a neo-plantation. The best way that we can describe it. There is a very clear power imbalance. There is a racial component to that power imbalance. And if I can describe it, it's a mile-long warehouse. So it's a rectangle that you see. It's about a mile long, and there's like green tape that shows where you can walk across the warehouse. So as soon as you walk in, you will walk across what's called the Green Mile, and it'll take you across everywhere in the warehouse. So if you think about the warehouse, it's like a horseshoe. So you have your rectangle of the warehouse, and then the horseshoe in the back. That's called the ship dock. That's where I work, where all of the boxes come in, and we load them into the trucks. And like I mentioned, it's about a mile long. So what I do as a water spider is, and you can't tell from looking at me, but I'm like 5'3" and 130 pounds, so I'm very small. And a lot of my coworkers always see me, lugging around these huge carts. And a lot of us think that I was placed there so that from Amazon to be able to kind of boot me out of there. It's a very physically demanding job, and you see big burly guys doing that job. And we walk, if we track our Apple Fitness, we walk approximately like 21 to 25 miles a day doing ship dock water spidering. So that's the ship dock. And then where Mom Mary works, you have the packers, which are right underneath the ship dock folks. So you have your singles pack where you're packing, single boxes. And then you also have your AFE pack, where it's where I used to pack, which is like an assembly line of packing. So they really like to separate us, and it's very compartmentalized, which is one of one of what we believe is the science that Amazon implements in order to keep us away from one another. Each of these little departments are like little cities in and of themselves. Like I mentioned before, we have like 4,700 people that work inside of that warehouse, so it's, you know, like a little city, and each department is like a neighborhood. Different cultures, different ways of that management handles you. You know, some people play music, some people don't. So it's very distinct. It's more like a little city in there. And then on top of us, we have 3 more floors of people that work with the robots, and they do a lot of the stowing. So you know, like I mentioned, it's a very compartmentalized place. You're kind of stuck within your department, and you're surveilled all of the time. I mean, I'm talking microphones, security when you first walk in. You have to scan yourself into a badge into like almost anything so that they know what they're looking at. So it's a very stressful environment to work in. There's a lot of noise, and that constant surveillance it really beats you down, which is why a lot of people don't last at Amazon at all. Our turnover rate is over 100%.
Right, right. And so, Mom Mary, you know, you said that y'all started Cause about during the pandemic, so maybe even more than 3 years ago now. What have you
it was
been...
in January. January was our 3-year anniversary.
Gotcha. And so what have y'all been doing in those intervening 3 years?
Ooh. A lot. Like I said, we started with the petition. Then we just started building rapport with our coworkers, you know, finding things, issues we could agitate on, finding out what they wanted to change at Amazon, what they didn't like. For example, I don't remember, I guess it's been about a year now. They changed our break times. They didn't come and ask us. We just showed up at work one day and our break times were changed. They didn't think about people that are insulin dependent, that have to take their insulin when they eat at a certain time every day. They didn't think about people that take dialysis. They didn't consider this. To them, to Amazon, we're just an algorithm. That's how they deal with this. And that's computer language. We're human beings. And we've been educating people, or trying to the best of our ability. And once you find common ground and things that people want to change, then that's what we act on. So we've been educating them as to their rights according to the NLRB, what we can do. And we've been teaching them the power of coming together, being united on one front. So it's just constant. That's how we got to an election.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yeah, what made you think that now is the time to pull the trigger and have an election? You know, you said you kind of celebrated your 3-year anniversary this January, and so you know you've been around for a while. What was it that you said when you filed the petition for the election that yes, now is the time?
Well, you know, according to the NLRB, it requires 30%. And we felt real strong and confident that we had that 30%, and we did. So we had a press conference Labor Day, which was September the 6th, I believe, announcing that we were starting card collection. And once we felt strongly about the cards we had signed, what better time?
Right. And so, Mom Mary, how have workers reacted to the coming election? I think the date is like from February 10th to the 15th or something like that.
That's
you can
correct.
Correct me. Okay, yeah. So
Correct.
how have workers in the facility reacted to the news of the election?
Well, a lot of workers are excited. Those that know the power of collective bargaining and that really understand the favoritism, the flagrant disrespect, being overlooked for positions, particularly with older workers like myself, people of color, the injustices that are just flagrant throughout Amazon in every department, not just in my home path, which is packed singles, but all over the building. And they're sick and tired. When you get sick and tired of something, it's time to do something. And a lot of them are really excited about it. They're like, yay, maybe now we can affect some change. But on the other side of the coin, Jacob, let me tell you about the slander campaign that Amazon is running. It is unfreaking believable. They're telling people all kind of misinformation. If I can be very candid with you, they're just lying to coworkers. And I get it. See, because to Amazon, they don't want a union because they lose that power and control. So they can't just change our brakes. So they can't, they can still continue to send us where they want to in the building, you know, and continue to have us be their pawns. We call Amazon the new plantation. We're just not picking cotton or chopping tobacco. We're picking packages. And it's time for this to stop. We're human beings. We deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And when I started at Amazon 4 years ago, I started out at $15 an hour. We work for a $2 trillion company. Jeff Bezos is one of the richest people in the world. We deserve a living wage. And according to MIT in Wake County, for one parent, one child, the living wage is $41.54. So starting me out at $15 an hour doesn't even come close. Everything in most of our lives has gone up. You can just go in the grocery store. You see how much a dozen eggs or a loaf of bread costs you now? You're paying a slave wages. And we're tired of that. That's no longer going to cut it.
Yeah,
So,
you know, the eggs,
through the line,
the
and it's
eggs
time
thing.
for a change.
Exactly. And the eggs thing, I was told that the prices of eggs were going to come down. So I am very, very confused about what's going on at the grocery store right now, but we can discuss that later. I don't want to get into that. Italo, what, you know, can you talk to us a little bit more about the reaction by the company? Like how, what are the kinds of things that Amazon is telling people, and what is the union's response to those things?
Yeah, we could spend an hour on this, Jacob, but just a few underlying things. Like Mom Mary said, this is not a misinformation campaign. This is a campaign of lies. So what they're doing right now, since captive audience meetings, they're not able to do those anymore. What they're doing is these voluntary meetings. But these voluntary meetings, as they are essentially rounding people up across the warehouse, and essentially filing people into these like recurring meetings in both English and in Spanish. And a few things that they're saying at these meetings are, you know, they're kind of testing out what they're saying. One of the first things that they started saying was what they always say, right? Oh, this union is an outside group. Well, with us, that doesn't work. Right. So we knew at that point that they were just recycling messages from other campaigns, because Cause is an independent worker-led union. Like, what does that mean? That we, the Amazon associates, are everything from the president to the secretary to the treasurer to the vice president. Right. So that we countered it immediately, and then they started taking that message down. Another thing that they were saying is they're lying pretty much and saying that we are going to take away your benefits. They're openly saying this. They're saying this specifically and targeting it to the Latino community. One of the things that we're seeing that Amazon's strategy is right now is they're targeting specifically Spanish speakers, because A, they know that right now there's a lot of fear going on in that community. B, they're trying to do some psychological warfare on these folks. So I'm also the chair of the Hispanic OC. So we're dealing with this literally right now. They are creating this racial tension in between Hispanics and Black folks, when our union is an incredibly multicultural place. We have people from all walks of life. But what Amazon is trying to paint cause as is a Black union that does not allow Hispanics in. That's what they're saying to our people right now. And one of the things that is just horrific about that is that Amazon is implementing this as a strategy. They are dividing their own workplace based on race, which hasn't, I hadn't really seen before. We have been united typically across racial lines, but what Amazon is doing is creating this game of identity politics. And one of the ways that at first we tried to counter message that by saying, no, Amazon is wrong, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't really working because, as we all know, racism is not a logical thing, right? It's an emotional thing. So people are responding based on emotion. So what we tried to do, and the message that we changed was we needed to find a bigger enemy than each other. And that came from talking to a lot of our friends in the labor movement. We are independent and worker-led, but we're not isolationist, right? We want to work with everybody. And one of our great friends from the labor movement was like, you have to find a bigger enemy than what they're trying to do in making you the enemies of each other. So what bigger enemy than Amazon? And that message has been working. But Jacob, they're lying about everything. They're lying about who we are. They're even lying about, they're saying that we pay people's salaries out of the donations that we collect. I have my eyes on the treasury all the time. We've never paid a cent of salary to anybody. So they're just making up lies. They're starting to spread around like wildfire. And our job right now is to counter them, but it's a war in there right now. It's telling them we're outside. Yep, they're telling them that we're outsiders, but it's literally a war in there right now, Jacob. It's like a tug of war. We all leave the warehouse exhausted, but I think that it's a war that we're winning right now. We're going in there and we're making sure that they're not creating the message for us. We have the message. We've had it for 3 years. We're an independent worker-led union. We are here for you because we are you. We are RDU1 associates, and we're not going to let Amazon get away with this one.
I think your answer there kind of answered something that somebody asked in the chat. There's a fellow here from Alabama asking if you've reached out to the Bessemer folks to know what to look for. And so I don't know if you've reached out to the Bessemer people specifically with RWDSU, but it sounds like you're like you said, not isolationist. You're talking to folks from other unions. And so what about, we've talked about some of the reaction to the campaign from workers and for Amazon. What about the community and like political leaders? Are there any sort of interventions, positive or negative, from community groups or politicians in the area?
Is that for me, Jacob? Or
yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if you would agree, Mom Mary, but politicians, we haven't really had too much of support, which we don't really mind. We have we're worried about the folks inside. But we haven't really had too many folks. I think Wiley Nickel, who used to be a congressman, reached out at some point. I know, of course, Senator Bernie Sanders welcomed us in DC back in June, so that was big. But other than that, with local support, we haven't really had much. We do live in North Carolina, so right. It doesn't matter if you're, Democrat or Republican. I think a lot of people want to stay away from it. So that has been an issue. But when it comes to community groups, we have had a lot of support. I mean, we're talking Black Workers for Justice, the Southern Workers Assembly, local Teamsters. We have rank and file Teamsters that are helping us out. The teachers union, the sanitation workers of the city of Durham, who we want to shout out, who, by the way, last year they went on strike, and it's illegal to strike as a government employee in the state of North Carolina. So they did. Incredibly courageous people, and they won their pay increase. So the labor movement right now in North Carolina is popping off, but it's very different, right, than labor movements and all over the nation, because of the laws that we're under and because we don't really have a culture of labor in North Carolina. But what we're seeing really are workers rising up, the people themselves that are touching the soil, that are cleaning out the trash, that are packing your packages. We are deciding, hey, we're gonna do this ourselves, man. If you work in a workplace of 50 people, all we need is 26. So that's what we tell everybody. You don't have to wait for somebody to come and save you. You can be your own savior. You can start your own union. So we've been seeing all of these groups pop up, and the Fruit of Labor Worker Center as well. I mean, we've had incredible support from our community, and we're just blessed to live in the state, really, that we have so much community support.
That's great to hear. Mom Mary, how, Idolo talked to some of this, but how are you feeling about your chances come, February 15th?
I'm feeling real good about them and excited about them. Like Idolo said, uh, we've had great community support. More people, even our coworkers, are stepping up, and a lot of people, because of where we are in North Carolina, which is only second to South Carolina, and it's a right to work state, is least likely to organize. And Jacob, one thing I tell my coworkers, this is 2024, right? So look around you. Name me a place that doesn't have a union. The postal workers have a union, teachers have a union, the sanitation workers have a union, the fire department has a union, even UPS has a union right across the street from RDU1. And one of the lies that Amazon was telling people, our coworkers, is that we make more money than they do. And we don't. But that's
Wow.
another smear tactic. So if all these places in your reality right now in North Carolina have unions, why don't we deserve to have one? Think about
Wow.
that for a minute. And the only power that rank and file people have, anybody that punches a clock anywhere, I don't care if it's at Burger King, McDonald's, Waffle House, the only power you have is collective bargaining. Other than that, your boss can do whatever they want to with you. And I tell people also, I wouldn't be afraid to join cause. Right now, I would be more afraid of what's Amazon going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, they've got all the power, all the control. They could fire half of us tomorrow without just cause.
Right.
So, what recourse would you have if you don't have a union? So, there's lots of things to get people to thinking, that they didn't know about before.
As we're wrapping up here, the Amazon Labor Union, an independent union that started at Staten Island in New York, recently affiliated with the Teamsters. I'm sure those conversations have come up. That question has come up about your union's thoughts about affiliation with the Teamsters in the event of a win or a loss, really. I mean, we've seen the Kentucky Amazon Labor Union, which has not won a union election yet. They have also affiliated with the Teamsters. How are y'all approaching those conversations about affiliating or not affiliating with the Teamsters, Mary?
And I'm sorry, I forgot because you did mention where you asked the question about Bessemer and about JFK. We have been, as a matter of fact, JFK is the reason we started this. We watched them get to an election. And I had the privilege of going to Cuba last year before now. And I met the Fantastic Four, Chris Smalls, Jason Flowers, Gerald Bryson, and Derek Palmer. I haven't met Bates in person, have been on several calls like this with her, but we watched those campaigns closely. And what we found, Amazon uses the same playbook, whether it's Bessemer, whether it's New York, whether it's in California. And we went to labor notes. Oh my God, I can't tell you the number of Amazon associates that were at labor notes that had the same gripes and grievances that us right here in North Carolina have. And when you can unite and stay together, that's more power than Amazon can stand. But it takes all of us, hourly employees fighting the good fight against a behemoth like Amazon. And that's what we're doing. And we're not stopping here. I feel real good about the election. Of course, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't predict the outcome. But I feel real confident that we're going to win.
And then just really
And
quickly
there hasn't
on
been the Teamsters are helping us, you know, and a lot of unions like USSW, SWA, because we're all fighting for the rights of workers. Doesn't matter what label you put on it. Teamsters, SWA, UE 150, we're all fighting for the betterment of workers. And that we can agree on. And when we agree on that, we all support each other.
Exactly. And so, Italo, last question here. What message would you have for Amazon workers that are in places that don't have active union campaigns yet?
Start. Do it. We, Mom Mary, Rev Ryan, myself, all of the people that started from the very beginning, none of us had labor organizing experience. Mom Mary, I think you served in a union before, but I mean, that's the extent of it. You just got to start. You got to go. There's nobody coming to save you. If you're the one that is being beaten down, and I know you are as an Amazon worker, if you feel that you have no voice, if you're working for one of the greatest corporate empires in the history of the world, you deserve better. We, you know, when we tell people, you know, we make 19, 20 bucks an hour, and many people that don't work at you know, a working class job will roll their eyes and they'll be like, oh, wow, you're asking for so much. I would ask that person to work 1 week on 20 bucks an hour and then come back and tell us that that's too much. We're in 2025, people. This is 20 bucks an hour does not go far at all. We have people that we work with that park in the parking lot very far away, and that's their house. That's where they live. That's where they retreat to at the end of the day and go to sleep. We have people that work 2 jobs, and I'm talking people that are in our union who work 2, 3 jobs. That shouldn't be happening when we're working for one of the greatest corporate empires in the history of the world. That shouldn't be happening when you know, you have Mr. Bezos who is sending himself into space. I don't have an issue with that. He can do whatever he wants, but pay your workers fairly. And all we're asking for here is to sit down in a table with our employers like adults. So if you work at an Amazon facility, organize. And you're not going to be alone, because as Mom Mary was saying, and we can't divulge too much, Jacob, as you can understand, but all I'm going to say is that we are no longer just a bunch of little fulfillment centers and delivery stations all over the nation. We are now a continental movement. And I'm not going to divulge too much about that, because these conversations that are being had in a very strategic fashion. But we are now a continental movement. And one of the things that we keep hearing all the time, right, and that we agree with, is we need to have one big union for Amazon workers. But it doesn't matter what label that is. It doesn't matter, you know, this affiliation or nothing type of thing. We can come together tomorrow into a great league of Amazonians. And who knows if that's not already happening? You know what I mean? So I do think that Seattle should be scared. And I think especially Mr. Zapolsky, who I'm going to call out right now, David Zapolsky, he sits in front of on top of his skyscraper in Seattle. He is the signature that we need. We don't care about anybody else. Mr. Zapolsky, come down, parlay, negotiate, and this will all be over.
Mary Hill, Vice President of CAUSE, Italo Medaleas Marsano, Secretary of CAUSE, also Chair of the Hispanic Organizing Committee. Thank you both so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. Best of luck in February. We'll keep an eye on it and look forward to having you back after you win your union.
Thank you, Jacob.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.